joined us. We have a tornado warning that includes Columbia County. It's also Gilchrist and Suwannee, which is south of there, but includes Columbia County, and that goes until 4:15. And then the severe thunderstorm warning you saw, that is for those of you in Putnam and Clay, far southeastern Clay, and then St. Johns County. Now, doing a note, for those of you in St. Johns County, north of St. Augustine, north of the World Golf Village, this boundary here, if you look off to the northeast, so for those of you from Highway 210 north in St. Johns County, and then even extreme southeastern Duval County beyond 430, we won't be surprised at all if this thunderstorm complex will head your way as well. So I'm not saying you're necessarily going to be put under a warning, but you can just about be guaranteed that for those of you in the rest of St. Johns County and far southeastern Duval, let's say between about 4:30 and 5, heavy rain, lightning, and wind gusts at least to near 50 miles per hour, just about a guarantee you're going to have that. Now, for the rest of those of you in Union and Bradford, Baker and Duval, and even northwestern Clay County, we're going to watch as these thunderstorms might expand as they head to the northeast. But the headline continues to be the tornado warning. It's for the thunderstorm complex that has come out of the Gulf here, especially in the Brantford area. And as this thunderstorm complex heads to the northeast, there will be the concern for the rotation near Brantford in Gilchrist and then far southern Suwannee County to make it in toward Columbia County. And although the area of rain and lightning extends well to the north, it's right down here, right approaching Highway 27, where if there is a tornado, certainly we see some rotation, then beyond the Brantford area, that's the part of the storm we'll be watching as that races to the northeast and eventually gets in toward Columbia County. So this is the part of the storm. In fact, here's another way to look at it. Here's the part of the storm. That's why the tornado warning has been issued. And maybe we are seeing the potential for further rotation off to the northeast as this heads to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Again, that tornado warning goes in effect until 4:15. So for those of you in Lake City, if the worst of the storm doesn't get there until about 4:10 to 4:15, you still have about 10 minutes or so in and around the Lake City area, I think, to drive to a safer place if you need to be. Again, the most dangerous place to be during any storm, really, but especially during a tornado, is in a moving vehicle. And here is what the storms have done just over the last hour. Again, have both expanded pretty rapidly and are moving rapidly from the southwest toward the northeast. Certainly plenty of lightning, that's always dangerous, and even without the tornado, these storms have the potential of producing some wind gusts to about 50 to 60 miles per hour. For those of you in Union and Bradford County, all right, thank you, Michaela. For those of you, we're going to continue to update actually on social media what's happening with these storms on all kinds of different platforms, so you can be out and about and keep a close watch on your apps as well. So there's a lot of shading here. All of us, except for those of you in Glenn County, all of us are under a tornado watch until 10 o'clock tonight. So that means this complex, any of these thunderstorms will have the potential to produce tornadoes. The darker orange there, that's where severe thunderstorms are producing winds potentially up to about 60 miles per hour. In our area, they're right on the perimeter of the region except for this severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect for southeastern Clay, St. Johns, and Putnam County. The tornado warning, and that's when we reach the threshold to where we are going to interrupt your program. I'm sure you're missing your programs for those of you outside these areas, but that's where as a public service we have to get on the air and let you know, especially when there is a tornado warning. When there's not a tornado warning, we'll simply at the bottom of the screen let you know what's happening as far as tornado watches and severe thunderstorm warnings. But with the tornado warning or in a situation in which we think a tornado is imminent, we're going to have to get in the middle of your program. Sorry about that, but we will continue to keep you updated as far as that's concerned. So there's a big look at the big picture. Again, so the main concern, if you're just joining us, tornado warning for Columbia County, severe thunderstorm warning for Putnam, portions of St. Johns, and then also for those of you in southeastern Clay County, the tornado warning continues in effect until 4:15. So let's zoom in a little bit closer here and we'll show you what we're having. So for those of you in Putnam County, southeastern Clay and St. Johns County, heavy rain, a lot of lightning. We don't see any indications of rotation, but these thunderstorms have continued to intensify. Certainly hail a possibility as well with these thunderstorms that are now, the worst of the storms are passing just west-northwest of Putnam County, lined up right toward about Green Cove Springs. Certainly will be expanding into St. Johns County as well. In fact, about ready to cross the river here from Green Cove Springs to cross the river, and this will expand into other areas of northern St. Johns County and again, extreme southeastern Duval. We'll watch these thunderstorms here in Union and Bradford working northeastward, going to make it into Baker, northwestern Clay, southwestern Duval. These so far have not been as intense, and it may be that energy is being drawn toward these storms and will help keep those storms from becoming too much stronger. Here's another look. So here is the Buckman. So again, just as a visual here, so there's the Buckman. It is to the south of the Buckman where the worst of the storms are, the south and to the east of the Buckman, really still more toward the World Golf Village. But generally speaking, the worst of the weather over the next hour, folks, 30 minutes for some of you, 15 minutes depending on where you are, we'll continue to see those storms expand from the southwest. Now, just plain making some observations, you can see the St. Johns River there, not much wind. That's expected because these thunderstorms are developing along a warm front, and it's right along the warm front and within the storms and south of there, that's where the winds are strongest. So don't be fooled by the calm conditions there we saw at the Buckman and elsewhere. These storms are coming your way because of a warm front. So we'll follow the lightning. That certainly is the obvious indication of where the worst of the storms are. But this is also using what we call velocity to try to find some possible rotation. Looking pretty closely here at what might be happening with the cell, and otherwise I don't see any major signatures, although this cell continues to intensify there. So we're northwest of Palatka here, east-northeast of Bayard. This particular cell heading toward northern Putnam County and far southeastern Clay County, we're going to watch. I'm not saying there's going to be, but if there's another tornado warning, we might possibly see something there. Now this is a future cast, so this is not radar, but it just supports the overall idea of a complex of thunderstorms that will continue to spread over the rest of Clay, St. Johns, and Duval County. That'll head offshore, and then this next line will come in from the west. But just because it's a computer model doesn't mean it's going to get it exactly right. These thunderstorms tend to produce their own weather as well. For instance, this particular computer model has underdone what is happening in the Columbia County area. So although, yes, as a general rule, check out the future cast, but don't assume that that's exactly what the weather will be doing. Just a general look. If anything, I think it shows we sort of have two different animals here. This first complex with the warm front, that thunderstorm complex will be offshore and headed away this evening, and then the second line will be coming at us from the west. And that second squall line will probably begin to weaken as it does so. But that's yet to be seen. So, Michaela, are you still updating?
Yeah, but I can jump over.
Okay. So Michaela's going to hop over and drive a little, just for a moment. And as she does so, we're going to check out a few things here. There is the big picture and shows the one tornado warning we have for Columbia County, and that goes until 4:15. We have not had any indications of damage, radar indicated. And then we have the severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect for southeastern Clay, St. Johns, and Putnam County. The strongest portion of the storm, where some rotation has been indicated, is in the Branford area. But the worst part of the storm has passed Branford. So we're talking about, here's the Branford area for those of you new to the region. Heavy rains have now worked into Columbia County. But this is the signature for the rotation. So that's past Branford, racing toward the northeast. So this is, again, pretty much tracking along the forecast, and why you see this overall shaded area that goes from Gilchrist to Suwannee to then Columbia County. And this is the general motion of the radar indicated rotation. Now this rotation is probably pretty high up in the clouds because we don't have a radar near that site. And maybe that's why we haven't had any reports of damage. But still, with that signature, that's a pretty strong signature of rotation, at least at a certain level. That's why the tornado warning remains in effect. So again, for those of you in the Lake City area, we're looking for the worst that this has to offer you, probably between about 4:10 and 4:15, maybe a little bit later than that, as it heads off to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So that's where our tornado warning is in effect. Think in Columbia County, south of I-10 on down to just north of the Fort White area. Again, there'll be rain in other regions, and you're going to have rain first. It's down here right along with the warm front as it races off to the northeast that the potential rotation is. The reason you hear some hesitation here is there is rotation in the cloud. We know that. The question is how much of that is getting down to the ground, which of course is where the wind damage will be. If nothing else though, it's a guarantee. This is a strong storm with winds gusting to, in some areas up to 50 miles per hour, very heavy rain and some hail, and that cluster is definitely working to the northeast. Past Branford though, some conditions improving in Gilchrist County, but through Suwannee County and heading toward Columbia County at a pretty quick clip here. Again, this is all along a warm front, and so the warm air is trying to rise over the relatively cooler air we have, and although it may feel warm out there, for many of these areas of the Suwannee River, winds or temperatures are near 70, whereas trying to warm up to near 80 degrees south of there, and pretty high dew points as well. So again, here's some of the locations. Michaela's working out some areas. Lake City area between about 4:05 and 4:20. So the Lake City area looks like the worst the storm has to offer between about 4:05 and 4:20 with potential rotation, and so that's why the tornado warning has been issued. Now for those of you who have just joined us, all of this other shading indicates a tornado watch. So that's the Severe Storms Forecast Office saying that some of these thunderstorms could potentially produce severe weather. Now I can tell you, it doesn't mean everything you see on radar could produce. Not too worried about this, not too worried about this cell here. If Michaela can take us down to where the severe thunderstorm warning is, that's down over southeastern Clay and Putnam County. So here we have the severe thunderstorm warning. We are a little more concerned about this. So if you're wondering which thunderstorm complex outside of what's happening in Columbia County might possibly produce a tornado, ooh, and that is a mess, folks. So there is I-95 and right there toward the World Golf Village. Visibilities don't look that bad there as far as the rains are concerned. That's where the storms are headed toward. Traffic is a mess, maybe just because. But that's about the northern extent of where the storms are. So you're looking at the World Golf Village on the radar. That's right about there. So the World Golf Village is on the northern extent of where the heavy rains are. The worst of the storm is to the southwest of the World Golf Village. Think more toward Green Cove Springs, the Magnolia area. So here's about the World Golf. Here's about the World Golf Village, and then Green Cove Springs, and then down Highway 17 toward Magnolia, and then down toward Palatka. This is where the severe thunderstorm is, and then heading off to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. The good news is that we haven't heard of, seen wind damage with either this particular storm or the tornado warning that is currently in effect for Columbia County. That goes until 4:15. So it's still a pretty intense storm, well past, and although you see the tornado warning in effect for Gilchrist County, no concern there anymore. The real concern really is what's left here in Suwannee County. So it is now right along, so potential rotation right along and just to the east there of Highway 49, and heading toward, it's to the west of Highway 247, and now just a few miles from the county line between Suwannee County and Columbia County. So pretty rural area here, but you can see why although Lake City, you're technically not under the tornado warning, you can see why we do have concern for you, because this is heading to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Again, the good news is we don't have reports of damage yet, but this is a pretty rural area, so it could be producing damage without us necessarily getting any reports. For those of you beyond Lake City, yeah, Michaela's going to work that for us now. So let's say that even if this storm is not producing a tornado or doesn't in another 15 to 30 minutes, you can be just about guaranteed you will experience a strong storm, possibly a severe storm, in areas beyond Lake City, toward Deep Creek and Ocean Pond National Forest. But of course, some of these are pretty rural regions, but still, just because the tornado warning stops here doesn't mean the storm will. These storms will continue to work to the northeast. So for Lake City and possibly even into west central Baker County by about 4:30 to 4:40, we're going to see that storm working into your area as well. And this is just part of that larger complex of storms that will continue to expand and that are working from the southwest to the northeast. So although there is a tornado watch in effect for the Florida Panhandle, and later on tonight we'll be keeping our eyes to the west, for all of us, we're going to be seeing storms, and even if it just ends up being heavy rain for you, that's going to be working from the southwest toward the northeast. So that's the tornado warning in Columbia County. This is the severe thunderstorm warning for Putnam, Clay, extreme southeastern Clay, and then St. Johns County as well. So I'm going to get out of the way for just a moment and see if we can add some information for you about this particular storm that continues to head to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So the tornado warning, so the tornado warning has been canceled for Gilchrist County, which we saw that clearly with the radar indicated rotation, which is now north of Gilchrist County and into Suwannee County, and then headed toward Columbia County. That tornado warning goes until 4:15 and will continue to. I'm checking things out, folks, because I'm curious about this thunderstorm complex here. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning up I-75. For those of you in Waycross, this is probably the complex that will eventually be impacting you, and this is moving along at about 50 miles per hour. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning for now. Can't rule out the fact that we might possibly see a tornado warning there. And then, of course, we have the thunderstorm complex of greatest concern that's producing the need for a tornado warning in Columbia County. And then we also have the severe thunderstorm warning off to the southeast. But this by far is the most intense storm that we see. And the greatest concern of all of this color that you're looking at here is now right along the Suwannee and Columbia County line. So if we have rotation with damaging winds on the surface, it's going to be right about in here as that races off to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. Again, Lake City, Live Oak off to the north, rain's hitting you as well, but it looks like you could be in between two of the worst of the storms. So we have this complex here, another thunderstorm complex out to the west for those of you in Live Oak, but that'll probably stay out to the west of you. East of there, for those of you in Union and Bradford County, I don't see this storm to be a concern for you, but for Baker County, you want to keep a close watch on the storm as it works off toward the east and toward the northeast. In Clay County as well, this thunderstorm complex not a problem for you. For those of you in Middleburg, you're probably in pretty good shape. For those of you to the southeast of Middleburg, that's where the severe thunderstorm warning is. Let's hop around here a little bit and show you the bigger picture. So here's the big picture. This is all part of that large frontal system that we've been talking about for over a week and will be until finally Friday it completely clears through. And as the main frontal system heads from west to east, and the really cold stuff, you can see the snow, that all races off to the northeast. As that squall line heads our way, and that's the front, then a shot of energy preceding it is pinwheeling off to the northeast, and that really is the triggering mechanism, has been over the last hour and will be for the next couple of hours, that is of greatest concern for those of us in northeastern Florida and now southeastern Georgia. So 3 storm complexes we're watching. The severe thunderstorm warning for those of you in northeastern Clay, northeastern Putnam, far southeastern Clay County and St. Johns County. This thunderstorm complex is going to catch those of you in extreme southeastern Duval as well. Then we have the tornado warning in the thunderstorm complex in Suwannee and Columbia County, and that thunderstorm complex, even if it doesn't produce a tornado, that's going to certainly be an issue for those of you in the rest of Columbia County and then in Baker County over about the next hour. And then this thunderstorm complex here on I-75 will be of focus for those of you in Waycross. So I will zoom in just a little bit to this thunderstorm complex. So this continues to race off to the northeast. We are now looking at this, so we're now in Duval at I-10 at Chaffee Road, and you can see some sun there, and that's for this forecaster, for the weather team. Michaela's in here as well. That's not necessarily good news. That means temperatures are rising. That means the warm front's coming in from the southwest. But if you have to drive on I-10 and you don't even want to deal with heavy rain, let alone wind gust over 40 and who knows, possibly a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning, now would be the time, because this overall complex will continue to head toward areas of I-10. So we call this the vertical integrated liquid. And we've seen maybe just a slight weakening of a strong thunderstorm complex that was northwest of Palatka. We now have a new tornado warning. So a new tornado warning has been issued. So this is part of the severe thunderstorm warning that we had. A new tornado warning has been issued now for far northeastern Putnam County. And then for those of you in St. Johns County, that includes the St. Augustine area. And the overall feeling is that, so although we see the heavy rains and the lightning spreading through the rest of northern St. Johns County and southeastern Duval, it's where we have the most heat, and we have even faster. We call them discrete cells. They're racing northeast, possibly 50 to 60 miles per hour on the southeastern side of this storm. That's where possible new rotation will be developing, and that's why now for those of you in Putnam, we're talking about beyond Palatka, though. So the concern is beyond Palatka. That is northeast of Palatka. That's my way of saying the concern is not in Palatka. The concern is beyond Palatka, but certainly from northeastern Putnam County in toward St. Johns County. That includes the St. Augustine area. Here's a look with the lightning and with the velocity that helps us pick out some rotation. And although we don't see a real strong signature there, nonetheless, so right in here, we're talking about between Palatka, just south of Green Cove Springs, Hastings, Spuds, and then working up toward St. Augustine. Certainly heavy rain and lightning heading in toward the World Golf Village area, but the concern for tornado to at least develop. And what I mean by that is when the radar indicates rotation, it's up at about probably 1,000 to 5,000 feet. That's a big deal. Doesn't cause much damage necessarily as long as no one's flying there. The big question becomes, especially for these types of storms, will that make it down to the surface? And where temperatures are warmest at the surface is where the risk is highest that that rotation will make it down to the surface. So notice we're showing you the other tornado warning. That's in Columbia County until 4:15, but we now have a new tornado warning that's in effect for St. Johns County. So this is what we call forecast, it's futurecast. It's the computer model trying to forecast where these storms are going to go. Just supports what we've been talking about over the last hour and a half, that these storms, even if they don't necessarily produce tornadoes where you are, they'll continue to expand over the rest of Clay and St. Johns County, over Duval, but maybe the worst of these storms passing to the south of most of Duval, except for extreme southeastern Duval. And then we have the line of stronger storms out to the west. But I do want to emphasize the computer model doesn't seem to be doesn't seem to be handling this too well. We have a whole complex of thunderstorms that have formed east of this squall line. So for those of you from Lake City to Waycross, we have a whole event going on the computer model is not even picking up. It's why sometimes, although I like for you to look at the futurecast in a general sense, don't get too specific with it. Because once these thunderstorms form, especially under this type of scenario, they can really create their own weather. So again, the tornado warning has been issued for St. Johns County until 4:45. Michaela, do you have a microphone?
I do have a microphone on.
Okay, we're gonna let Michaela go for just a bit, Michaela Lacero is going to handle this, and I'm going to check out a few other areas. Okay, Michaela?
Okay, thanks, Tim. Yeah, we're continuing to watch this severe thunderstorm warning that has produced the signatures that we're looking for that could be creating that tornadic activity. So let's get you the labels to show you what we're looking at across our area. We've got 3. So the first 2 you see over here, tornado warning and a severe thunderstorm warning. That tornado warning is in effect for Putnam and St. Johns County, and that's in effect until about 4:45. So about almost another 45 minutes from now, a little less than that. We also had that severe thunderstorm warning for Clay, Putnam, and St. Johns County. So Clay County, you are still included in the severe thunderstorm warning. Not included in that tornado warning, but you are still included in the severe thunderstorm warning. That's in effect till 4:30, so about 21 more minutes from now. Now, we are also keeping an eye on yet another storm system, and this has been the tornado warning we've been tracking for most of the day today. That's in effect until 4:15 p.m. Okay, so this one, we haven't seen it be extended quite yet. However, it does look like we're seeing the proper signatures. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see this extended for probably another half hour or so. So we're going to swap over to our velocities, and what we're looking at here is that what we talked about yesterday, the couplet that we're looking for. We're looking for those red and green colors to be tightly wound together, and it's very obvious. You see it right here. We're watching this one system that could be producing that tornadic activity. So that's what we're looking at, those red and green colors tightly wound together, creating that what we could see as a couplet. Now this is in effect till 4:15, so only another 6 minutes from now. But again, wouldn't be surprised if we do see this extended further out, and there it is. Let me get you the most recent information on that tornado warning. We did see it be extended, so let's get you over to the most recent information that the National Weather Service out of Jacksonville is bringing us. Okay, so it's in effect, let's see, until 4:45 p.m. So now we have 2 tornado warnings, both in effect until 4:45 p.m. So I'll zoom out and show you both of them that we're watching at the moment. So now we have 4 different storm systems, or 4 different warnings that we're watching associated with 2 different storm systems. So say that again, 4 different warnings that we're watching associated with 2 different storm systems. So here where they both are, the first one that we're watching is getting closer to the coast. It's a tornado warning and a severe thunderstorm warning. That tornado warning is in effect until 4:45. That's the main one that we're watching right now. I'm going to switch us back over to our radar to show you the rainfall that we've been seeing. Very heavy rainfall associated with this system. Now again, this is for Putnam and St. Johns County. Clay County, you are not included in the tornado warning, but you are still included in that severe thunderstorm warning. Very heavy rainfall expected from these systems. This is going over our major interstate, I-95. If you are headed home from work, I know it's commute times, maybe picking up the kiddos from school later, use that caution on the roadways. If you do not have to be out right now, do not be so. Car is one of the worst places you can be in this situation. St. Augustine, you are included in the tornado warning. That's in effect till 4:45 this afternoon. And the the severe thunderstorm warning, that's in effect until 4:30. Not only do we have the threat for seeing that tornadic activity from this one, the heavy rainfall that could be causing some of that localized flash flooding, we've also seen some reports that we could be getting some hail from these systems. Yesterday we saw hail up to about penny size, and so today we're going to continue to monitor that threat. Now let's get over a little bit further off to the west and show you the other tornado warning that we're keeping an eye on. Now this one you see here, Columbia, Hamilton, and Suwannee County. This is in effect until 4:45 this afternoon. Now this one is the one we've been tracking for quite some time now. We're going to get you a little bit of a closer look at where we could be seeing some of that rotation. So if you're just joining us, we're watching a couple different storm systems that could be producing some of that tornadic activity. Okay, so let's get over to our a quick loop of what we've been seeing over about the last hour. Notice when I play this through, this is a fast moving system. These storms are moving anywhere between about 35 to potentially 50 miles per hour. I'm going to switch us over again to our velocity. This is what we're looking at when we try to determine if we're seeing some of that tornadic activity. Now what we're looking for are these colors, these red and green colors, to be tightly wound together. So it does look like we are potentially seeing that just outside of Lake City. Lake City, you are now included in this next tornado warning. It was extended. It does look like the system is moving off towards the northeast at about 35 to 40. Some indications could be saying up to about 50 miles per hour. So again, this is the rotation that we're watching for one of our tornado warnings. And again, Lake City, you are now included in that system. Okay, we're going to get a track of this tornado warning and show you where it's expected to go over the next about half hour or so. So when we zoom out, we're going to put a track, and I'm going to switch us back over to the radar so that you can be seeing the rainfall. So here's the track of the system.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the most recent information from the National Weather Service for the at least timing of the system. So straight from their office, what they're saying is moving off towards the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So if I take this and zoom it on out, it looks like we're going northeast up to about 40 miles per hour. So places like Deep Creek, 433 is when you could be seeing this. Now there are a few other spots that aren't necessarily in the timeline of this system. However, you're expected to get at least some sort of effect from these storms over the next about half hour to 45 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Michaela. Michaela, let's if we can focus on St. Johns County as well and that particular storm. That certainly is moving into an area in which we have a lot of rush hour traffic. So for those of you who just joined us, the tornado warning, here's a look, first of all, at I-95 in the World Golf Village. Very heavy rains, no doubt about it. Plenty of traffic, that's not a surprise. So there's going to be plenty of issues there. Do want to emphasize, we're going to pull that now the radar, that heavy rains will continue over the World Golf Village, northward through 210 into Duval County. So that is where the majority of our rush hour traffic will be. But the tornado warning is south of there. So although it's stormy in the World Golf Village, the tornado warning is for south of there. Another way to say that would be for those of you who have loved ones in the World Golf Village and you're thinking about heading south on 95, not a good idea. Remember, the worst of the weather, the greatest concern, the tornado warning, south of the World Golf Village toward the St. Augustine area. Michaela, maybe if we can zoom in a little bit between Palatka, Hastings, Spuds, and Putnam County. Yeah, so what's happening, folks, is really all along this thunderstorm complex, there are areas of potential rotation. So this is all radar indicated. The worst of the cell looks like it's going to stay to the north of those of you in Hastings. So we're talking about Highway 207. So we're in St. Johns County. Think north of Highway 207 and paralleling Highway 207. So some potential for rotation there as this will race to the northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So Michaela, if we can expand a little bit to the northeast, want to show folks, so there may actually be two different areas we're watching. So first right here, just north of Highway 207, this potential rotation is going to continue to race toward the east, northeast, and northeast. So that would include you folks within about 20 minutes in St. Augustine. And then this area here that Michaela has painted, potentially some rotation there as well. But that is still to the south of the World Golf Village. So although certainly heavy rains and lightning will continue from the World Golf Village northward to the whole 210 corridor and even extreme southeastern Duval County, I think what we see on radar, our greatest concern for tornadic damage will be with this cell here that is again just north of 207. Okay, so all right, so here you go. So we're looking now at I-95 and 207. Notice it's actually brighter there, and you may say, come on, it's brighter there, it doesn't look as bad. That's our concern. That means they are getting more of the heat. The storm is off to the southwest of that intersection. So what we're seeing visually is, if we could zoom in a little bit, Michaela, and we might be able to show them the intersection. Yeah, here we go. So here's the intersection of I-95 and 207. So that's what the camera is looking at. And notice, so it's brighter because that is in the warmer air. Temperatures here probably close to about 80 degrees. Here's the potential rotation in this area. So again, what we're showing you here in that picture, that's a live look right here where it's hazy, no doubt about it, but it's brighter than the World Golf Village. And although the roads aren't wet yet, it is between 207 and then headed up toward the Outlet Mall. So think north of 207 to about the outlet mall in 95, that's where the worst, that's where the potential will be. So for those of you who are, maybe have plans coming from I-95 northward toward the outlet mall, now would not be the time to go. For those of you in the St. Augustine area thinking to head toward the outlet mall, and I'm not saying just the outlet mall, but that area, that intersection area, the outlet mall 95, now would not be the time to head in that direction. In fact, really, because this storm system is headed your way and it's moving quickly, if you can wait about 30 to 45 minutes, the greatest threat from this particular storm will be over. So really, the tornado warning, although it extends over a larger area than what we're just showing. So here it is. The tornado warning extends down to about Hastings to near Marineland, and then goes northward to about Ponte Vedra to south of the World Golf Village. Over the next 10 to 15 minutes, the concern for tornadic damage is going to be right here. So it's going to be east of the St. Johns River in St. Johns County, and southwest of the outlet mall, and then toward I-95 as it heads to the northeast at about 40 to 45 miles per hour. Now, we just got an update from the radar. Maybe, just maybe, not quite as much of a signature of rotation there, but still the worst of the storm at the very least. The heaviest of the rain and lightning goes from the World Golf Village down to the Discount Mall. So think the intersection of I-95 and Highway 16 on down to very near Highway 207. So although I'm saying the potential rotation is just north of Highway 207, I'm not saying that it's a walk in the park on 207, but south of 207, we're not as concerned as for those of you right along in northeast. And so I would suspect if there's any rotation, it's paralleling Highway 207. It's well east of Highway 17 now. It's east of the river, so it's east of Highway 13. So maybe that's another way to describe it. So it's east of Highway 13 toward St. Augustine, west of I-95, south of the Discount Mall. That's where the tornadic damage will be. But clearly, you can see why in areas up toward the World Golf Village, not a great place to be either. But there we're primarily talking about very heavy rain, low visibilities, possibly some wind gusts to about 30 to 40 miles per hour. Because the rain has already hit there, I suspect the winds won't be much stronger than that. So from the outlet mall northward on I-95 all the way to about the St. Johns Duval County line, now blinding rains for the next 30 minutes or so. But the concern for tornadic damage, and for that matter even some straight line winds that could gust to 40 or 45 miles per hour, is going to be in this particular area. In fact, the tornado warning has been adjusted just a little bit farther to the south. So the tornado warning technically covers Putnam County, so along Highway 17 and then east to the river in Putnam County, St. Johns County along Highway 13. So it's still going to include those of you south of Highway 13 and the intersection of 207. It's just that right now it looks like if there's developing rotation, it's going to be along Highway 207 and to the north, near or just west of I-95, and then east of Highway 13, and all of it is heading toward the ocean. Once that gets offshore, your conditions will improve dramatically. Now, before we go to the tornado warning, Michaela, I also want to focus here because these are intense downpours. There's no signs yet that they're going to intensify, but you can kind of connect the dots. That an area of concern for us forecasters goes from the storm in St. Johns County to the tornado warning that we have right now in Columbia County. So although there's not much happening here now, any thunderstorms that develop there we'll be anxious about. So Michaela and I will be watching pretty closely here, especially these cells between Middleburg and Sanderson, up toward Baldwin, over toward Oakleaf. We're going to watch this cluster here. I'm not saying that's going to be a severe thunderstorm. I'm just saying that although you don't see warnings there, we're going to watch that pretty closely. We do want to, of course, remind you, we continue with the tornado warning for those of you in Columbia County. The worst of the storm is right over Lake City now, so I'm not telling you something you don't know. Maybe another way to look at it for those of you in Lake City is that because the worst of the weather is then also the end of the weather. Notice you begin with rain and some rumbles, and then it's the very last part of the storm where there's the potential for rotation. Once that gets by you, you will see dramatically improving conditions. So for those of you let's say within 5 miles of Lake City. If you can just hunker down for another 5 minutes, so the worst of your weather will be over, especially south of Lake City. Now, northeast of Lake City, you can see where the tornado warning continues, and there will be additional possible rotation. And the possible rotation is really, if you don't live around Lake City, think the intersection about of I-10 and I-75. Okay, so the storm that we were watching off to the south, the northern portion of it now includes extreme southeastern Duval County. So although the threat for tornadic weather is down over central and southern St. Johns County, think about the outlet mall to Volano, south through St. Augustine to about Matanzas, and then along Highway 207 over to Highway 13. The severe thunderstorm warning now extends northward through the World Golf Village, the 210 corridor there, and then except for far northwest. You get out toward Fruit Cove and up toward Mandarin, the worst of the weather is actually forming off to your east. But you get out toward 210 and Racetrack Road, and then farther off toward the east, this portion of the thunderstorm, that we have a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. Here's another look at I-95 International Golf Parkway. So by the World Golf Village again, very heavy rain and lightning. And remember, a severe thunderstorm warning is talking not about the rain or the lightning. The threshold for severe thunderstorm is when there could be winds of 60 miles per hour or more. That's about when we start having damage, and hail. And some of these thunderstorms are capable of producing some hail almost to golf ball size. That in itself could be another reason to where you don't want to be on the roadways driving 60 miles per hour and have a golf ball size hailstone hit your windshield. But that severe thunderstorm warning, if we could zoom in, Michaela, from the World Golf Village to southern Duval County, so work it north a little bit because we're also including Duval County. So the severe thunderstorm warning includes those of you in Duval County as well. So here's World Golf Village on up to Duval County. If we would expand, Michaela, up toward the beaches, yeah. So for those of you who are southeastern Duval County, the severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for you. As far as the ingredients we're most concerned will be the possibility of hail, the possibility of winds gusting up to about 60. That in itself, of course, can cause problems. The tornadic concern is to the south of you, but that's why severe thunderstorm warning includes now far southeastern Duval County. So think the intersection of the 295 loop and 95 on over to the eastern portions of Bay Meadows. I think of it still as the new portions of Bay Meadows. On over to just north, well, really since Nocatee goes into Duval County, the portions of Nocatee that goes into Duval County, and then almost to Mayo Clinic, and then out toward the beaches. So the ingredients that we're concerned about for those of you in southeastern Duval, I think will primarily be, in addition to the rain and the lightning, then the severe part would be the concern possibly for some hail. And then the farther to the south you get, in addition to the heavy rains, and obviously we have that, here's the World Golf Village as well, right in the middle of the core of the heaviest rain and the lightning. That's also where the concern will be for some hail. Then it is south of there where we have the tornado warning. Michaela, I don't know if we could go to Velocity or Vil to just check this out to see if we see any kind of strong signature. So maybe, just maybe, if there's going to be any rotation, it's going to be right here, folks. This is north of Highway 207, I believe, to I-95. And this is where the potential, this is where we probably have rotation about 1,000 to 5,000 feet. And the question is, how much of that is getting to the ground? But the bottom line is that is going to continue to head to the northeast and catch anybody within 5 miles of St. Augustine, north and south of there. But again, this is moving along at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So therefore, even if you absolutely have to get something done in and around the St. Augustine area, think World Golf Village down to St. Augustine, almost down to Matanzas, and then out to the west. If you have to get something done, this is moving along quickly. So at least the heaviest of the rain and the tornadic concern, it's going to be over within about 20 or 30 minutes. So if we can wait till 5 o'clock south of World Golf Village to St. Augustine, and then point southwestward, the worst of the weather will be over as far as you're concerned in that particular tornado warning. So those are the two tornado warnings we're dealing with, St. Johns County and in Columbia County. As far as I know, Michaela, we haven't had any indications of wind damage or damage reports. So again, this is radar indicated. For public safety and service, we have to interrupt your programs. For those of you who wonder why, and tornado warnings aren't enough, it really is part of our public responsibility. Because although maybe these tornadoes aren't producing the damage that larger, stronger tornadoes can, the science isn't definitive enough to say that they won't. So we will stick with this, these 2 tornado warnings. So this is in Columbia County. A bit of good news for those of you in Lake City, relatively speaking. I think you stay hunkered down for another 5 minutes and the worst will be over for those of you in Lake City. North of I-10 in Columbia County, you're going to wait a little bit longer. Remember, with these particular storms, the tornadic threat is not with the leading edge. You're going to have light rain giving way to rumbles, and then it's really the backside of the storm, so to speak, just before the storm ends, where there might be some rotation. Whereas, Michaela, if we go down to the tornado or the threat of a tornado in St. Johns County, it's really still more on the eastern and southeastern side of that. If this thunderstorm is going to be producing rotation and wind damage on the surface, then it's going to be on this portion of the storm. We're looking here at I-95 and State Road 214, so wet roads there, and some reduced visibilities. You don't see a whole lot of wind, and there is not much wind with these systems except for right in the core of the storm. It's one of the reasons we use terms like isolated, tornadic, isolated wind damage, even though we can see rain and lightning covering large areas. Now, we are beginning to see maybe a little more definitive darkness there in the observation. I don't see any type of gust front jumping out at me, but those are the kind of things we'll be watching for. So Michaela has popped up on here we call the vertical integrated liquid. And sometimes it helps to, at the very least, it's showing us where the thunderstorm is producing vertical, is producing its most organized chimney. And rotation tends to develop when there's the strongest updraft. And just like a fireplace and the vent is opened, that fire is going to do a lot better if the vent is opened and there's an updraft going through the chimney. Well, this is our way of, amidst all of that rain and even some of the Doppler noise, we can pick out where most of the vertical extent is. And very often these chimneys tend to lean over a bit. So this chimney is probably leaning over somewhat from southwest to northeast. So if you don't see it already, as a forecaster, if we're trying to figure out where might the rotation be, even if it's not observed, it's going to be right about in here. So you're looking at 295 and 16. So 295 and 16, to put things in perspective, 295 and 16 is there. The potential rotation is south of there. So no doubt about it, very heavy rains, and it's verified with what you see. If there's going to be any tornadic development on 95, it's going to be south of what we're showing you. So it's going to be south of what we're showing you, south of 295 and 16. So hopefully my vocabulary is making sense. 295 and 16, no doubt about it. If you don't have to be on the roadways, don't. Very heavy rain, could be some hail, there'll be some blinding lightning. As far as the threat for wind damage, it's going to be for those of you that live in and around areas now south of I-95 and 16, as this whole storm moves about parallel to Highway 207. So again, if there's rotation with potential wind damage, it's going to be right here in between what we're showing you here. So it's going to be in between that shot. It's going to be in between I-95 and 16 and the intersection between I-95 and 207. So this is the area we're watching here. And so there you see that's the tornado warning. Probably doesn't take me to tell you, though, for those of you in our most populated area of this part of St. Johns County, in and around St. Augustine, you are now downstream from where, if the storm is going to produce a tornado and or wind damage, we're pretty much talking about the St. Augustine area, because this is going to, maybe we can even try to draw a line there just to point it out there, Michaela, and zoom in, that from this general area here towards St. Augustine as the storm moves along at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So amidst all of the rain and the lightning and potential for hail, this arrow paints pretty closely to where if there's going to be wind damage and if we see that rotation make it to the surface, this is going to be the spot right along and within a few miles of Highway 207. So it looks like we have a live look there, and so that's near downtown headed south. So that is part of our team headed south toward the storm. And the top one there is where obviously the rain's coming down at 16. So basically, the bottom part of the screen is a member of our team driving toward the storm, toward the heavy rain. We don't advise that you do that unless you have to. And conditions in Duval, nothing dramatic showing there at all. Normally, with thunderstorms that develop along a warm front, you expect to drive into it, if you're going to be driving, you expect to drive into a situation to where you gradually go to light rain, to heavier rain, to then possibly some hail, and then at the very bottom edge of that, if there's going to be rotation, that's where it is. So for instance, if our driver were to continue, we would go from just now starting to turn the windshield wipers on in downtown Jacksonville to then gradually the rain becomes heavier, and then finally now south of the Outlet Mall and toward 207, that's where the worst of the weather is. And it looks like if there's any rotation, it's going to be now along I-95 and then just off to the east of I-95. So believe me, I'm not trying to increase the anxiety in and around the St. Augustine area, but it does, if nothing else, it verifies why the tornado warning, although notice the area continues to get smaller and smaller. We don't want to warn any more than we have to. It does verify that, but another way to look at it would be for those of you in the St. Augustine area, our main concern with this will be debris, if there is any, flying through windows. So another way to look at this in the St. Augustine area is that as quick as this is moving along, think about it, it's on I-95, and if you drove from I-95 at 40 to 50 miles per hour without any traffic lights, and of course the storm won't worry about traffic lights, it's going to be by you within about 15 minutes. So if you want to play it absolutely safe, and I hope you do, then in the St. Augustine area, another way to look at this is to say, yeah, the storm's just about here, but at least I know for me and my loved ones, it's going to be gone within about 15 minutes. You're going to have wet roadways, but then the threat will be over. So again, we're not saying there's a tornado on the ground here, but we're saying amidst all of that rain and lightning that we're showing you, Michaela has really zoomed in here that if there's some wind damage and potentially a storm that is producing some wind damage, it's into this area and now probably just to the east of I-95. So although the tornado warning includes those of you west of I-95, I think your threat is coming to an end. Now notice we continue with heavy rains and possibly some hail all the way out to Green Cove Springs. So I don't want to mislead you and say that your storminess is over. We're just really trying to be hyper-focused right now on the possibility of a tornado. And if nothing else, verification-wise, for those of you in the St. Augustine area, points northward and westward for just about 5 miles, treat this tornado warning seriously. Doesn't mean you have to freak out at all. Any tornado is dangerous. We suspect that if this storm does produce a tornado, it's going to be more like the type of event that could send some wind damage through windows. We're always concerned about an old tree coming down, no doubt about it. So if you're in a structure and you've been particularly worried about a tree and you can get to the other side of the structure, fantastic. But I think the main action you can take, and certainly action is always better than just watching, right? The main action you can take is just make sure you and your loved ones are away from windows in case debris were to form or occur, and then that flies.
We have gotten some reports of up to an inch-sized hail for Bakersfield. That's the area that we saw that tornadic activity yesterday.
Okay, so Michaela has verified that we are seeing hail up to 1 inch. Doesn't quite get us to golf ball size, but still 1 inch hail if you're driving along at 40 to 50, 60 miles an hour, that can cause problems. So we are verifying that we have the hail. Obviously, we have the heavy lightning. We have the frequent lightning and the heavy rains. And you're now looking, so the top of the screen is I-95 and 214. And then the bottom of the screen is driving out of downtown toward the south, and that is toward the storm. And again, if there's any rotation, it's here. Here is I-95, so now well east of I-95. And I'm sure that in the St. Augustine area, if you don't hear the lightning, you can certainly see the dark clouds. So now would not be the time to get on the road and try to get to a safer place. If you're anywhere within a few miles of downtown St. Augustine, now would be the time to simply keep you and your loved ones away from debris. And now would not be the time to drive as you continue under the tornado warning. And I think in St. Augustine, this tornado warning will continue in your area probably for about another 10 or 15 minutes. Can we just double check, Michaela, on that? First of all, on the storm over western Duval, these storms are intensifying a little bit, but not in a major way. So we know we have some downpours near Oakleaf, working through other areas of western Duval now, near Edward Waters College, up toward Reball and Rains, but we don't see indications of severe weather there. This thunderstorm has intensified a bit near McClenny, but not in a big way. So we'll watch this complex as it probably still strengthens a little more as it heads toward the north side and then also into Nassau County. But at least for right now, we're not real concerned about that. So we're going to go a little farther to the west, and Michaela's working the radar. Thank you, Michaela. So we continue with the tornado warning for Columbia County. Now notice they being the National Weather Service, continue to shave the size of the tornado warning because, again, the last thing we want to do is for you to think that we're crying wolf here. And at the same time, when we think you can relax, we love for that to happen. So for those of you in the Lake City area, notice you're no longer in that tornado warning. So the threat is now north of I-10 in Columbia County, and certainly we care about you folks in that part of Columbia County. But I can tell you from camping out there toward the Suwannee, at least the population density is low. A lot of beautiful trees and campgrounds out there, that is for sure. Now, but a different story, of course, here in St. Johns County, as the tornado warning includes the densely populated St. Augustine area and areas north and northwest of there. The worst of the weather pretty much from South Ponte Vedra on down to about the Volano Bridge. And the discount, the outlet mall there, you're looking at I-95 and 16, obviously dark clouds. The worst of the weather, though, is south of there and headed off to the east and to the southeast. So real briefly, I'm throwing a lot of compass directions at you here, and I'm certainly not trying to be confusing or pass the Scout merit test on compasses. What's happening is, as the individual cells race to the northeast, the overall rain is spreading to the east, so it's kind of cooling the air. So what's actually happening is the area in which rotation can still develop, although the storm is moving northeast, is pressed south. So the net result of that, in fact, if you look at this polygon here, really the line goes more east and northeast. And so I think sometimes it might get confusing because you hear me say, well, it's going off to the northeast and I'm northeast of the cell. But what's actually, there you go, thank you, Michaela. What's actually happening is we're following where the rotation and the potential tornado is redeveloping. I hesitate to bring up the term hurricane, but hopefully if you've been with us any amount of time, you know the eye wall of a hurricane is not a stable event. It's continually reforming every 45 minutes. The rotation within these storms is reforming probably every 5 minutes. So I don't want to mislead you and think that there's just one rotation that's moving along. It's continuing to redevelop. And now this is quite the signature that if this is developing rotation, it is now right into the St. Augustine area to about the Volano Bridge and will be offshore within about 10 minutes. So yeah. The bad news is the worst this storm has to offer is right into St. Augustine and Volano and about South Ponte Vedra. The good news is, although you see the tornado warning extends all the way back to west of I-95, the good news is this is going to be offshore within about 5 to 10 minutes. So I think you have incentive, further incentive, to just stay hunker down for another 10 minutes. And although you'll continue with rain and some lightning, I think the worst that this storm has to offer will be offshore as it continues to let's say maybe I should use the term, instead of move, the rotation continues to redevelop to the east and northeast at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. Obviously some pretty dramatic clouds there. Now you're looking at I-95 and 16 with the darkest clouds now off to the south. And then you're also looking here in Duval heading south. I think they're heading down toward 95 and the 295 loop. Notice roads there are fine, but notice it's dark there to the south, and that just supports what we see here and the strongest portion of the storm. So the heaviest of the rains now are right over I-95, but south of Nocatee. So the heaviest of the rains now southeast of the World Golf Village. In fact, the heaviest of the rains are really beginning to taper off along I-95. We are really zoomed in here now. So the strongest part of the storm is east of I-95. We're really talking about Highway 1. So Phillips Highway becoming Highway 1. So we're really talking about Highway 1 right on down into the old town, into the wall there with the guards. Fort Mose right in here. And here's the Volano Bridge, and here's the Bridge of Lions. And the worst of the storm, think Volano to about the Bridge of Lions. So that's going to be offshore within about 5 to 10 minutes. So we have some different warnings going on. I think you're seeing different polygons here. I think what we're seeing here is pretty soon this portion of the tornado warning is going to be expired, so that the emphasis is really now east of I-95. So the tornado warning has been extended until 5, but you can really think of it as just verification of what we're saying, that along I-95 to the west now in St. Johns County, tornado warning essentially is expiring, okay? So the concern, really think just a few miles either side of Highway 1 and then to the coast, and really looks like the worst of it is right along Highway 1 to the coast. So although the heaviest rains and potential hail still probably up air south of Nocatee towards South Ponte Vedra Beach. Now, for those of you new to the area, I'm not saying the southern portions of Ponte Vedra. That would be north of Guana. There's actually the incorporated area of South Ponte Vedra Beach, which is south of Guana. Okay, so maybe that's another way to say it, since there's not too many of us living in Guana. So from the homes that start just south of Guana through Volano in toward where the amphitheater is and the Bridge of Lions and the shores, that's where the worst of the weather is. And this update shows me that if there's any rotation left at all, if this thunderstorm, and the reason that we have the tornado warning in effect, if it's going to produce or is producing now some wind damage, it's now east of Highway 1. Okay, so for those of you west of Highway 1 even, although you're under a tornado warning, conditions for you, if they haven't already, they're going to improve rapidly. So if you just have to get something done and you have to get in your vehicle, I promise you, if you just wait about another 5 to 10 minutes, the threat for the tornado warning will be over. And for those of you who don't live here and you just want to see regular programming, well, you'll probably be able to see some regular programming pretty soon. Although remember, all of us are under a tornado watch until 10 p.m. Once the tornadic concern, imminent concern ends, that is, once the tornado warnings end, then we'll go back to regular programming. Now notice the tornado warning no longer in effect. The tornado warning no longer in effect for Columbia County. It's still a storm. Could be producing some wind damage and some hail. But for those of you over Columbia and northwestern Baker County, it's a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's not a tornado warning. The rest of the area under a tornado watch. The tornado warning continues for St. Johns County. So we continue to eyeball this. The technology is great, but it's great to look out the window as well. So you're looking south of I-95 and Gulf Parkway, which is pretty much where the World Golf Village is, and that supports. The darkness you see, that's over St. Augustine. Whereas in Duval County, notice, at least in this portion of Duval County on 95, the roads are still dry. There's some showers on the way, but this does seem to support the idea that the severe thunderstorm warning, although it includes parts of Duval County, it's really missing even this part of I-95 as we head south on I-95 and eventually, I suspect, toward the Duval-St. Johns County line. Okay, so that's all good news. So here is Michaela continues to help me out here with the Doppler and the tornado warning that remains in effect now until 5 o'clock. And we're going to stay with you as long as that official threat continues here at 4:48. And still a good idea to play it safe for those of you in St. Augustine, south and southwestward. But just looking at the radar, if it's producing or about ready to produce some rotation, it is right on the island, if not offshore. In fact, personally, I'm just about to the point now, just looking at the radar, where I'm more concerned if you have any friends that might be on the boat as opposed to on the coast. Very heavy rain, no doubt about it. So on A1A, very heavy rain, and this might even be a hail signature. South of Guano towards South Ponte Vedra Beach, getting down toward Volano. Very heavy rain, no doubt about it. And here's an indication of hail right there. So this would be near Fort Mose, I think a little farther to the north of Fort Mose, north of the airport. So the airport in St. Augustine right about there. So the worst of the weather past the St. Augustine airport now as well. So pretty much the worst of the weather right on the island in St. Johns County. And the threat of any new rotation is going to be right here. So from Volano, from southern end of Guana on down, or the oceanfront part of Guana Park, through South Ponte Vedra Beach and Volano. And then because you folks in St. Augustine are right on the edge, there still possibly might be some lift there. And that's why the tornado warning is still in effect. And the main reason you hear me hesitating is because I don't want to minimize the fact we still have a tornado warning in effect for those of you in St. Johns County. But I'm feeling much better for those of you. Let's say at least if you're on the west side of the Volano Bridge westward, if you're on the west side of the Bridge of Lions westward, if you're west of the big bridge, the tall bridge, 312 bridge, if you're west of there, you're good as far as this particular cell is concerned. Now you see the shading. Remember that all of it means all of us continue under a tornado watch until 10 p.m. But as far as the tornado warning, if you're in St. Augustine South, and if you're west of St. Augustine, you're in good shape. The true tornadic threat, although the warning extends a little bit farther to the west, the real tornadic threat of anything new, any type of new damage, is going to be now right on the island or offshore. Which is why I feel pretty good. At 5 o'clock tonight, we are going to then resume regular programming. That'll be at 5 p.m. tonight, but we're going to stick with these storms. Now notice, heavy rains continue and possibly still some hail. Out toward the World Golf Village, farther west, we can even probably cross the river. Certainly those heavy rains extend, all the way to the St. Johns River and in toward Middleburg and other thunderstorms developing here. Bottom line is, in addition to the radar, if you want to be your own forecaster, if you live in portions of Clay and Duval and Baker where it still feels like it's closer to 80, we could still see thunderstorms developing. Again, just a little bit of brief meteorology. So this is the squall line. These are the storms. There's a tornado warning there east of Dothan. These are the storms that have developed along the cold front, and that's moving west to east. But as that moves west to east, this energy is the warm front, and that's racing northeastward. So although that is not a solid line, you can connect the dots. And as forecasters, we won't relax for everyone until these scattered, really isolated severe thunderstorms get northeast of you. But nonetheless, that is why, at least for a while, for those of you in Putnam County, southwestern Clay County, portions of Union and Bradford County, southern Columbia County, you're fine. You're in a bit of a lull here until these storms come at us from the west. But it's another reason why we're under a severe thunder or a tornado watch. All of us are under a tornado watch until 10 p.m. tonight, except for those of you in Glenn County. But I'm sure it doesn't take me to say, well, if this is headed northeast and this front's headed east, Glenn County, even though you're not under a tornado watch, certainly you're going to have some storms heading your way. So here's a look at the 210 corridor, especially there at the intersection of 210 and 95. And so this is, obviously it's stormy there, and it's raining, and reports of even some hail there. So I'm certainly not trying to say that other areas aren't getting storminess. But as far as our greatest concern, where the highest risk of damage and or harm to limb is, it's going to be with the tornado warning. And for those of you up toward 210, we're not concerned about this thunderstorm producing a tornado for you, although you combine rush hour traffic with heavy rain and possibly some hail, and if it hasn't already, it certainly could produce quite the mess there. We're also, so we're at 95 and 210, and then I believe this is our weather team on 95 that's now started downtown, and now they're heading into St. Johns County. It really has been an interesting observation into looking at thunderstorms that develop along warm fronts, that if you're driving into it, they're normally not suddenly dramatic storms. You go from lighter rain to rumbles to heavier rain, and then if our team were to continue to head south, then they would suddenly get into clear weather after hitting some of the heaviest rain. But the most dramatic weather is now is actually east of I-95. So this is our one tornado warning that we continue with until 5. The worst of the weather is actually right on A1A to the coast, folks. So you can picture that. We're talking the heaviest of the rain, potentially any new large hail that's going to be on the island in St. Johns County. And it's going to be primarily north of St. Augustine, south of Ponte Vedra. We're really talking about Guana and South Ponte Vedra Beach. So we're really talking about, fortunately, about the least populated area between northern St. Johns County and the St. Augustine area. And remember, this is all headed off to the east and to the northeast. So although the tornado warning extends westward, certainly treat it seriously. But if we're going to be transparent here with the radar, it sure does look to us like the worst of the weather is offshore. But we'll stay with it just to make sure, because officially we do have a tornado warning, and there's no doubt about it. This is an intense storm, and I'll tell you that although the motion is primarily heading off to the east and to the northeast, these thunderstorms, when they start to collapse, they can produce gust fronts. So we can't absolutely we can't say that there won't be something else new developing, but overall, certainly this is good news. We're going to stay with this tornado warning until 5, and then we'll have regular programming at 5 o'clock with First Coast News.
Tim, we just got some information from the National Weather Service out of Jacksonville that it does look like that rotation has started to move off into the ocean. We could potentially be seeing a water spout from this system as well. So if you are out there on the beach this afternoon, or know people who are out there, make sure that you are sending them the information they need to know. A good way to get our information for the rest of the afternoon and evening, have our app downloaded. You can watch live there. You can also watch on our social media pages throughout the day as we continue to track these storm systems.
Great reminder and information there, folks. Remember, we have places all over that you can go to. It's another great reason to have the weather app. You know, both because it lets you know what's coming, but when you can see there's storms there, it can also let you know that if you absolutely have to get something done, the weather app will let you know where the worst of the storm is, and maybe more significantly, it can help you, let's say, help your impatient family members stay where they are for just a little bit longer, because the weather app, if you can't watch us, can tell you pretty quickly when things are going to improve. Now, just to make sure, Michaela, thank you for the update. The reason I gave the thumbs up when Michaela talked about the water spout, that's my way of saying that if the concern is for water spouts, that means the concern has headed offshore into the ocean and is heading away from the land. Of course, any water spout can be very dangerous as well. Just didn't want to assume. Michaela, thank you for that.
The 5 o'clock warning.
Okay, so Michaela's supporting the idea that and the National Weather Service is supporting the idea of really what we see on radar. As much as we want to be transparent, and we certainly do our own analysis, we also like to stick with those who put out the actual tornado warnings, which is the National Weather Service. But it certainly is nice to hear when they're verifying what we see on the radar. So Michaela is going to expand the picture here just a little bit, maybe just to put some of your minds at ease in that although, yes, very heavy rains over northwestern St. Johns County, very heavy rains from Middleburg up to Orange Park, very heavy rains over portions of southern Duval. No indications of a tornado yet, but we'll keep you updated there. Well, we just have a new tornado warning, and this is for Baker County. So this is the same cell in which that tornado warning existed earlier for Gilchrist and Suwannee and Columbia County. got by the Lake City area as far as we know without much in the way of significant damage. If you had some, let us know. But now the same thunderstorm continues to race to the northeast, and it's why we continue to watch these thunderstorm cells, because whereas one portion of the thunderstorm, the rotation, the lift may weaken, as we say, very often the thunderstorm continues to move along, and there's a lot of energy out there. And then if it finds a place, so to speak, where there's enough warmth at the surface, then that updraft reconnects with the surface, or at least it looks like it's getting close, and that could be happening right here. We're talking about far northern Baker County. This is well to the north of I-10, so for those of you in Sanderson and McClenny, Glen St. Mary, don't worry. This storm is going to stay well to the northwest of you. This is primarily over northern Baker County and headed toward the Okefenokee. So on the short term, not too many folks up there. Nonetheless, we'll keep a close watch on this particular tornado warning that's northern Baker County, going to head in toward the swamp. But this cell, for instance, we've been talking about, for those of you in Glenn County, you're not under a tornado watch, but storms headed your way. This particular cell, and I'm not saying you're going to have a tornado warning in Glenn County, but this particular cell will cross the swamp through Charlton County, and then we'll probably work into northwestern Camden and portions of Glenn County probably about 30 minutes to an hour from now. So as a forecaster, we will be watching this cell as it heads into the swamp. So we have a tornado warning northern Baker County. No doubt about it, it's a big deal. We know there's a few folks out there. The good news is, relatively speaking, it's over the rural piney woods there of northern Baker County. It's going to head into the Okefenokee, but you can see why in about 30 minutes we're going to watch closely for those of you even in Folkestone. So actually our greatest concern for the fact of this new tornado warning will be for those of you in about 30 minutes in Folkestone, and then eventually for those of you in western Camden and southern Glenn County. If we can expand the picture just a little bit before we get to the 5 o'clock news. So that's the tornado warning. That is over the rural areas of Baker County heading toward the Okefenokee. We still have heavy thunderstorms over portions of Clay, southern Duval. The tornado warning over St. Johns County is about ready to expire. In fact, that has now expired. We will keep you updated, and so right now we're going to start with the news.
This is First Coast News on your side.
Take a look at that video. Dangerous weather conditions hitting the First Coast tonight. You just heard Tim talking about it. This is new video of hail from the World Golf Village neighborhood in St. Augustine. We're also showing you a live look from the roads tonight in Jacksonville. You see our live drive there on the streets of Duval County, and you can barely see out of the camera there at Jack's Beach. Thank you for joining us on this Monday at 5. I'm Anthony Austin.
And I'm Heather Crawford. Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan has been tracking these storms for hours now. He joins us now with what to expect. Tim?
Okay, thank you, Heather and Anthony. And certainly the headline is the tornado warning that is over Baker County. Now, this is primarily over a rural area, but still, we know there's a few folks there. We'll keep a close watch on it. But I also want to talk about the big picture for those of you who are just now joining us. So this overall, the big picture is, this is that same front that we've been dealing with since Friday, that the nation has been dealing with really for the last week, and we'll be dealing with in ways until Friday. But there's going to continue to be a variety of conditions. For now, the yellow shading, the tornado watch for our counties, everybody but Glenn County, and again in Glenn County these storms are headed your way as well. The tornado watch goes until 10 p.m. The one tornado warning we have at the present time is for northern Baker County. That's radar indicated rotation. We haven't had indications of damage yet, and that's heading in toward the Okefenokee, so a very rural area. We'll keep a close watch on. The tornado warning that had most recently impacted our more densely populated areas like St. Augustine, that is no longer in effect. Here's the easy part. Rain and thunderstorms will continue to impact different areas of the First Coast through the evening hours. We will all continue to be under a tornado watch. The question is, who's going to have the worst of the weather? Well, over the next hour, the worst of the thunderstorm activity, let's say for the next 30 minutes, the worst of the thunderstorm activity will be for those of you over northern Clay, the northern half of St. Johns County, and then southeastern Duval County. For those of you over For those of you over Baker County, the tornado warning continues in effect. For those of you over Putnam County, though, at least for the next hour or so, Putnam County, St. Augustine, southward, you're going to have a bit of a break as the energy races northeast of you, and we wait on what type of thunderstorm activity we might have coming at us from the west. This is the dynamic cell that put out all of that heavy rain and hail over St. Johns County, caused the need for the tornado warning, but this is just probably doesn't take a meteorologist. If you just look at all of the lightning and then the intense colors within that, we call that the vertical integrated liquid, the VIL. It's kind of like, this isn't looking at the rain. There's rain beyond here. This is looking at where are there different chimneys. If you think of a thunderhead, the higher the clouds go into the atmosphere, the higher they go, the more air that has to be drawn into those clouds, the stronger the updrafts have to be, the greater the risk for rotation. And this developed into quite the chimney. The good news is that is offshore, and that will continue to race away from us at about 40 to 50 miles per hour. So that's offshore. That's great news to see. But these are still some heavy rains and lightning that we'll keep a close watch on because we can't absolutely rule out that these could possibly produce some wind damage, at the very least hail. Now here's our tornado warning. We're going to spend a little bit of time with this tornado warning over northern Baker County. The good news is it's going to stay well to the north of you folks in Sanderson and McClenny, so no problem for those of you in Sanderson and McClenny. This storm system itself will stay north of you as it's going to race to the northeast. And it will continue to, the tornado warning goes until 5:30. The worst of this weather heading through the northern portions of Baker County. Primarily we're talking about the piney woods there and then in toward the swamp. Now after that point, as we get toward about 5:30 to 5:45, if this thunderstorm maintains itself, then that could be of greater concern as it gets toward places like Folkestone. But notice for now, the tornado warning far northern Baker County and then the Okefenokee. I want to watch pretty closely this cell. It's right along the Nassau-Duval County line. Not saying it's severe at all, just talking about some heavy rain and not a lot of lightning with it yet, but that is expanding toward an area of expanding heavier rains over Nassau. This thunderstorm complex, again, we don't have any warnings with this particular thunderstorm complex. It just continues to support that we will continue with heavy rains, reduced visibilities, can't rule out the possibility of some small hail for those of you. Think along the 210 corridor northward and then into southern Duval County. And this is going to continue to spread from the Mandarin, Bay Meadows area through UNF and the town center, San Jose, through Orange Park, up through downtown. I guess another way to say it is anybody in Duval from Oakleaf right along the 295 loop eastward, if you don't have the heavy rains and lightning yet, you will soon. You're not under any warnings right now. Can't absolutely say that you will not be. There could be some hail with this particular cell, especially if this continues to work northward toward that other thunderstorm complex in Baker County, then it becomes more of a concern. So we'll continue to watch those. So here again is our tornado warning. Well, we'll let the radar go through it, and I don't see any new indications of rotation, but nonetheless, it's a tornado warning, so we're going to take it serious, but that is moving pretty quickly, probably now 50 miles per hour, and I suspect this is going to be into Georgia, the Georgia part of the Okefenokee, within about 15 to 30 minutes or so. We'll see if we can, Michaela's trying to see if we can find some areas, so places like, well, there it is, really primarily the Okefenokee, but also places like Traders Hill and Davis Field there of northern Baker County. But that's a tornado warning that is in effect until 5:30. I guess another way to say it would be amidst all of the thunderstorms, that is the only tornado warning we have in effect right now.
Reports of hail up to quarter size in Carlisle, I believe it's called, in Putnam County, about quarter size.
Okay, so we had some quarter size hail in Putnam County. That's far eastern Putnam County. Here's a look. So we are, there's the, so first of all, this part of the screen here. So that's 95 and Gulf Parkway. That's looking south toward where the worst of the storms had been. But remember in St. Johns County, the absolute worst of the storm, that is our threat of tornadoes, that has headed offshore into the ocean. So that's good news. That'll continue to head away. Then this at the bottom of the screen, I'm not sure where they are. That might be Racetrack Road. I'm not positive. Maybe someone can tell me. I'm not sure. Okay, that's St. John's. All right, we know that's looking south. We're wondering where this shot is right here in St. Johns County. Okay, we'll get back to you there, but yeah, nothing too dramatic happening there. But I don't want to mislead you here. So although we do not have any severe weather warnings at the present time for northern St. Johns, Clay, and Duval, remember we're all under a tornado watch, and that heavy rain and lightning is happening right during rush hour. So at the very least, the mess in Duval, northern St. Johns, northern Clay, and Nassau County. When I say the mess, the combination of heavy rains and lightning and rush hour, that's going to continue for at least the next 30 minutes, maybe the next hour or so. Notice the tornado warning is now being shaved away. That's this polygon here. It's a smaller and smaller area. So there doesn't seem to be, at least right now, too much concern to move it northeastward. But this continues for Baker County. Just want to let you know, this is I guess another way to look at this would be, although every single county except Glenn County is under a tornado watch right now, the only tornado warning we have right now is in far northern Baker County. On the other hand, I do want to make sure you folks know, remember, even if this tornado warning expires, that thunderstorm itself will continue intact, and it's going to race to the northeast, and so we will watch eventually down the line, for instance, northwestern Nassau County, possibly western Camden County, and maybe even eventually in an hour and a half, Glenn County, this thunderstorm complex will move through your area. So in a way, we kind of have two animals here. We have this thunderstorm complex, and each individual thunderstorm is racing from the southwest to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. So if you want to be your own forecaster, if you're off to the southwest here, overall conditions quieting down a bit until these storms that are on the front, although the individual cells are racing northeastward at 50 to 60 miles per hour, the triggering mechanism, the front itself, is moving from west to east. So for those of you south of these storms racing northeastward, you'll get a bit of a lull until these storms to our west come into our area. And it's one of the reasons why, from the Severe Storms Forecast Office, the tornado watch is in effect until 10 p.m. It's not necessarily saying we're going to have continuous storms in any one particular spot. It's that really two different portions of one system connect themselves. There it is. Michaela just put up the shading for us. So all of us under the tornado watch, but again, it's more for two ingredients. This ingredient heading off to the northeast. We started the afternoon with our first tornado warning down over far southwestern Putnam County, and now our strongest storms go from northern St. Johns County through Duval and Baker, and within about an hour, this part of the complex will probably be more for those of you over Nassau, Camden, and Glenn. So this is going to continue to race to the northeast. Then we'll have a bit of a lull, and then we'll wait on the other storms. Now, if there's anything positive about the tornado warnings we've had and the storms we've had, if there's anything positive, it is that these storms are tending to knock the heat out of the atmosphere, meaning that when the storms out to the west, which actually initially the Severe Storms Forecast Office was most concerned about, that means when they do make it into our area well after sunset, you combine the fact that it'll be after sunset, and these storms, we say in meteorology, they've worked over the atmosphere. That just means they've taken the heat out. Remember, heat really is just a measure of energy. And so these storms will have taken some of the energy out of the atmosphere, which might help us with that next storm system coming in from the west. But to be on the safe side, the tornado watch goes until 10 p.m. So here's the tornado warning. Still goes till 5:30. While we're looking west, because we care about you folks in northern Baker County and those of you in the southern Charlton County, also watching with interest what's happening here. So far, so good. So far, these thunderstorms over western Duval and now into Nassau County, they don't seem to be intensifying a lot. This is that storm that was the strong storm that continues to head away. Yes, we still have heavy rains and thunderstorms, and we're watching very closely with some anxiousness over far northern St. Johns County, Clay County, think Middleburg, up toward Doctors Inlet and Orange Park, and then Duval County now pretty much east of Oak, pretty much now Argyle on up to about NAS Jacks, on over to JU, through the town center and the beaches. So this is sort of it's the area that we're watching very closely to see if anything new develops there. As forecasters, we like the idea that right now the strongest storm is offshore, and that's heading off to the east and the northeast, but it's not a guarantee that these storms won't further intensify. But at least right now we're not seeing it. Michaela.
Tim, something to think about Is that localized flash flooding that we could be seeing on those roadways. You see it there on your screen right now. Some of that water is starting to pool up. We've seen a surplus of rain for the month of February, and so our soils are starting to get a little bit saturated. So if you are out on the roadways, I know it's a big commute time right now. Use extra caution. We always tell you, turn around, don't drown, but especially in those low-lying areas. You know those areas, you drive them every day. You know where that water tends to pool up. So if you are out on the roadways right now, be extra cautious. We've seen quite a bit of heavy rainfall over the last couple of days and over the last hour or so. And we're going to continue to see that rainfall today, and that's going to carry over really into the next week or so, Tim.
Really good point, Michaela. We have had, some of us have had over 6 inches of rain really since January. And yeah, couldn't say it better. Turn around, don't drown. You can see some very heavy rains, low visibility there, I-95 and Emerson. And as Michaela mentioned, we've had enough, at least localized heavy rain and full ditches because of the heavy rains we've had. So at the very least, there's some standing water. I think the interstates are going to continue to look pretty good as far as lack of standing water. But you know the areas that you live in, especially in or more urbanized areas of Duval County, where some of that flooding could occur, especially because we now have some getting into close to the downtown area and then points toward the north. So really good point, Michaela. We'll keep a close watch on that. We continue with the tornado warning over Baker County. Again, it's this portion here where there might be some rotation. It's not a strong indication right now, but that's about ready to even get out of the tornado warning area. Now notice the severe thunderstorm warning does extend all the way up into Georgia. And so we'll keep a close watch. Might have a little bit of rotation, but it's not an especially strong signature. But nonetheless, that is a tornado warning. And the overall thunderstorm complex will continue to head to the northeast. So it's going to continue to work in toward the Okefenokee. And then beyond that, we'll see how intense it's going to be. But beyond that, that's why we'll keep a close watch for those of you up toward Folkston and then eventually over other areas of western Camden and Glenn counties. I'm thinking north of Folkston up toward Woodbine. This complex will probably stay east of those of you up in the Patterson area of Pierce County, maybe southeastern Brantley County. So as far as this particular thunderstorm complex, even if the tornado warning is dropped or allowed to expire, that thunderstorm will continue to work to the northeast. So after it gets through the Okefenokee, you folks over southeastern Brantley, western Camden, western Glenn County, within about 30 minutes to an hour, that'll be the next area we'll be curious to see as far as what happens with that. Michaela, I don't know if we can, with velocity, maybe check out some of these cells over that are just east of Highway 301, maybe in Nassau County and then down toward Duval, just to see. We don't see anything necessarily jumping out at us, so that's good to see. I know this is just a lot of color, folks, but since we have the time and it is during the news, we thought we'd continue to check things out. Of course, if a go ahead,
to
Michaela.
help some of our viewers watching, when we look at these colors, we've got red and green, and something to keep in mind, an easy way to remember what we're looking at. Red means receding, green means go. So the green is heading towards the radar and the red is moving away from the radar, receding. So what we look for when we're looking at these two colors is for them to be tightly wrapped together and looking like a little circle. That's what we look for when we're trying to determine if we're seeing some of that tornadic activity. Now, if we look at that tornado warning that we've been watching in Baker County, we see maybe a little bit of that couplet forming maybe right here where those red and greens are getting together, but it's not a very defined signature. It looks like we're seeing pretty broad rotation coming through Baker County, and I do believe that we'll see that start to diminish and potentially see that expire over at least the next 14 minutes or so. Another broad view of what we're looking at. I'm going to switch us back over to the radar. You can see we're continuing to watch these showers and storms come through, and we are all under that tornado watch until 10 p.m. tonight. Now, there's that next line of storms that you see we're expecting to come through later on tonight over the Florida Panhandle right now. Now, this did bring some of that tornadic activity earlier today, but right now they're just dealing with these severe thunderstorms for that area. We're continuing to watch heavy rainfall, especially in Duval County, as well as that tornado warning that we do have for Baker County. for this afternoon. That one's still in effect till about 5:30 tonight. All of us in the yellow you see there, that's that tornado watch in effect until about 10 p.m. tonight. So we all need to stay on guard for the rest of the night, at least until 10 p.m. Make sure you've got your First Coast News app downloaded, and we'll send you the information you need to know. Allow location and notification services on that one. You see off to our roadways there, we're continuing to watch potentially some of that localized flash flooding, but as of now, looks like we're doing all right. Skies are going to continue to clear for the next about half hour or so until that next line does come through. We'll zoom in on where that tornado warning is at the moment. Now that again is in effect for Baker County, and that's until about 5:30, so at least another about 12 minutes for now. We're not seeing really any rotation included in that system as of now. Now we'll switch over to our velocities. Again, that's what we were talking about just a minute ago, where we're looking at those red and green colors. We're looking for them to be tightly wrapped together. Really not seeing that with this system any longer. We are still watching that severe thunderstorm warning, though, that is still included with the tornado warning that we're watching there. So here's the info for that severe thunderstorm warning, again in effect till 5:30, and that does include Baker, Charlton, and Ware counties there that you see there, and in effect till about 5:30.
All right, thanks, Michaela. We, in addition to the tornado warning, we're going to keep a close watch amongst all the thunderstorms. The complex that does seem to be getting a little bit organized here over Duval, northwestern Clay, eastern Baker, and southwestern Nassau County. Again, we don't have any warnings there. All of us are under a watch, but these thunderstorms here, we talked about the fact that we're connecting the dots here. So although, yes, these are all individual thunderstorms, it is all part of the same system that extends east-northeastward toward the cold front. So all of these individual storms are racing to the northeast. This is what we call the warm front. This is the solid line. We call this a squall line, organized solid line moving west to east. That's almost easy to forecast because it is solid. It's going to keep moving along with the front. What's a little tougher to forecast is what's going to happen in between the thunderstorms as this whole process heads to the northeast. So for instance, if you're south of there, we'll have some showers, but not real concerned about severe weather. North of there, we have time to prepare, but it's in between that if we're going to have rapid thunderstorm intensification, it's going to be between these thunderstorms. And if we're going to have rapid intensification over the next 30 minutes, I think it's probably going to be right in here. It's probably going to be over northern Clay, western Duval, eastern Baker, and southwestern St. Johns County. So we're going to keep a very close watch on these storms here. I'm not sure if we could produce a Ville loop out of this, Michaela. These storms don't seem to be producing a lot of lightning. Okay, so great. Thank you, Michaela. So here's some relativity in case you're not used to looking at these colors. So again, this is the Ville. Another way to say it, I think, is you're kind of looking at saying where are the tallest chimneys. Okay, the more intense color, the tallest chimney. And that's the storm that caused the need for the tornado warning over St. Johns and Putnam County. That's headed offshore. So I just wanted to give you a relative sense. That is, if you're just wondering what colors really grab our attention, that's it. Okay, so as we look out to the west, these are, if we could zoom in a little bit, Michaela, so these are some other chimneys we're watching. Call them convective cells, but just think of them as chimneys. And the more organized and the taller the chimney, the greater the potential, at least, for certainly hail, but also for some rotation. So we're looking at this chimney here in the Palm Valley, Ponte Vedra area, Jacksonville Beach, UNF, Mayo Clinic. This chimney here in the Orange Park, Oakleaf, heading toward NAS Jacks. And then this chimney here, which is over far western Duval, think west of Cecil, south of Baldwin, right on Highway 301. So those are the one, so those are the chimneys we're going to watch as they head to the northeast. Now there's another one developing on the north side just south of the airport. So we'll watch that, but it's really the chimneys that are right along the warm front that if they're going to rapidly develop with rotation, those are the areas of greatest concern. We don't have any warnings yet for those areas, but if you're wondering of everything that we're looking at here, those are the ones that grab our attention, but they're racing off to the northeast at 40 miles per hour. So these will have moved, these three chimneys here will have moved completely through Duval County, really probably within about the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. So again, not saying these will produce tornadoes or necessarily severe storms, but that's what we'll be watching very closely. And then we'll check out the chimney, so to speak, with the vertical integrated liquid over, if we can, Baker County. So the tornado warning still in effect till 5:30, but if anything, the chimney effect, the more organized portion of the vertical development has now moved out of Baker County and is into Charlton County. So certainly we could still have some lift and some updrafts here in Baker County, but if nothing else, it supports the idea that the stronger portion of this thunderstorm continues to head to the race to the northeast. And if the threat hasn't ended completely, the tornadic threat for Baker County is soon to end. Michaela?
They are going to expire that tornado warning for Baker County. When it's within the last 10 minutes, they can't pull the polygon off. However, they have determined that that threat has diminished for Baker County.
Fantastic. So therefore, it is great to have Michaela here because while I'm talking away, I'm not too good at reading, and Michaela can check that out. So the National Weather Service is supporting the idea that this tornado warning will expire at 5:30, and for all technical purposes, especially because this is not a densely populated area, you can think of this tornado warning as being over. But as we mentioned earlier also, this thunderstorm itself will still race to the northeast, and we can't guarantee that it might not re-intensify as it heads to the northeast. So that's why we're going to watch this very closely, especially for those of you in Folkestone, other areas of maybe northwestern Camden County, and then southwestern Glenn, and maybe, just maybe, southeastern portions of Brantley County. This will probably stay to the east of those of you in Pierce County. I know up in northern Ware, up around Waycross, you have some shower activity going on, but I think at least right now you're in pretty good position. This complex of thunderstorms should stay southeast of those of you in Waycross. If we're going to use the word concern, higher concern in the Waycross area and up toward Alma will be with how much intensity remains with this line of thunderstorms that is moving from the west toward the east.
National Weather Service, it does look like that severe thunderstorm warning is also going to be expired. That one is for Baker, Charleston, and Ware counties.
Okay, so Michaela, just nothing but good news. Thank you, Michaela. I appreciate it. So this severe thunderstorm warning and the tornado warning will be over. But again, just as a reminder, the thunderstorm will stay there. Well, it'll still be an identifiable feature on the radar as it heads to the northeast. So that's just another one of those chimneys, so to speak, that we'll be watching as it continues to head to the northeast. Speaking of the chimneys, how are they doing? So we see the complex there moving from northern St. Johns County, Ponte Vedra, Palm Valley area in toward Jacksonville Beach, up toward Mayo, maybe catching UNF. Certainly very heavy rains from downtown toward JU, but still as a forecaster, more concerned for the storms a little farther to the south, a little closer to the warmer air. So we don't see any rapid intensification there. Do we have lightning on this, Michaela? Yeah. And so we're not seeing lightning. That's another good sign as well. But nonetheless, well, we have some lightning developing there in the cell that's moving now out of northern St. Johns County into southeastern Duval, and we are primarily talking about JTB to Beach Boulevard and then out toward the beaches. I know we have heavy rains there from now Amelia, just about, to the Mayport Ferry, to north of the Danes Point Bridge over to the airport, and then also over Nassau County. But if any of these cells were to develop potential rotation, it would be more like these cells. That so far they're not showing much intensification, and I don't see any lightning there, so that's all good news. Talking about specifically you folks from Argyle, Oakleaf, on over toward areas near Cecil, and then for those of you farther off toward the north. So we'll keep a close watch on that. Don't see any rapid intensification there. So what I'm wondering is, as these storms race to the northeast, how much a lull we're going to get. I do think for those of you trying to make plans, and you see there's a tornado watch in effect, but you want to get something done, or you need to get something done. I do think it's relatively responsible to say that for those of you in St. John's and Clay and Putnam and Flagler, that at least for the next hour or so, any new potentially damaging occurrence will be around you. So I think for those of you in St. John's, outside of the storm that's occurring now, but once that storm gets into Duval and moves away from you, for those of you in St. John's, Clay, Putnam, and Flagler County, that for the next hour or so, the storms that you had will be heading away from you, and the next line of storms will be coming toward you. And even if they re-intensify and become severe, that probably won't be until later on tonight. So just to play it safe, you have a couple hours at least for those of you in Clay, Putnam, St. John's, and Flagler County until the next line of thunderstorms head your way. And Duval for the next hour or so, really touch and go. Although we don't have a warning right now, certainly heavy rains and lightning out there, could be some hail. Can't guarantee that those storms won't become severe. And we won't get the complete clear until this line comes through. But wow, this squall line is moving quickly. It did not really get organized into the Panhandle. Let's check it out. This is over the last. It did not get organized into the Florida Panhandle until after the noon hour. So there it is, and now it's already made it to Tallahassee. So at least if you just want all of this to be over, at least we know this particular part of the storm scenario will be over by 11 o'clock tonight, if not sooner. But as far as our warnings, the only warnings we have are off to the west of us at the present time. At the present time, we do, or at 5:30, will not have any warnings over northeastern Florida or southeastern Georgia. We continue under a tornado watch until 10. We continue with the strongest thunderstorms over the next hour that will extend from Duval to northern Baker through Nassau, Camden, and Glenn counties. Then there'll be a bit of a lull, and then we'll watch this squall line. Right now there are severe thunderstorms west of Suwannee County toward Tallahassee, and that'll be the next line of thunderstorms heading our way from the west, as this thunderstorm complex, about an hour from now, will lift north and move away from Duval County, impacting those of you in Nassau and extreme southeastern Georgia. But if nothing else, I don't have to tell you, we've had a lot of rain. There's more rain out there. The ditches are full. Use some caution. And now we're going to join the news, First Coast News, at 5:30.
You're watching First Coast News, on your side.
Well, heavy rain, streak lightning, and limited visibility right here on the Buckman Bridge in Jacksonville. Take a look at that. Thank you to Deanna for sending us this video. She was the passenger. I saw her right in the car when she was taking that video. We have been following all the storms this afternoon, much of the First Coast under a tornado watch. Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan joins us now. So, Tim, what can we expect as people make their way home from work this evening?
Okay, thank you, Heather. Certainly we have heavy rains out there. And for those of you who have just joined us, but maybe you've been with us over the last week, we've been talking about some very cold air that has infiltrated much of the nation east of the Rockies, and it's been slowly headed our way. In fact, there was quite the batch of snow as far to the south as Houston earlier today. That's racing off to the northeast. So that actual cold air won't make it here until later Friday or Saturday. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making, it is a massive system that we continue to deal with. But as far as the rest of the afternoon and the evening, this whole shading, and notice of all the country, the only tornado watch right now is pretty much for our part of the world. That is from about Macon south to us, and then from near Tallahassee eastward to our coastline. And that tornado watch, remember, watch means the potential for storms. There will be storms. There are storms. But the potential for the storms to produce a tornado. So that tornado watch will be with us through 10 o'clock tonight. We have had tornado warnings, meaning there was actually radar indicated tornadoes. We haven't heard of any significant damage, so that's good news. We're really looking at, although a lot of color here, two different systems within this front. So the storms we've had, that's what you see here, those will continue to race toward the northeast. So for those of you in Duval, conditions will probably improve an hour from now, continuing stormy over Nassau and then southeastern Georgia. South of Duval, there'll be a bit of a lull. And then all of us later on this evening, we'll be dealing with this organized line of thunderstorms. And right now there are severe thunderstorms, possibly damaging winds and hail west of Suwannee County, think Tallahassee, and that will be headed our way this evening. And then conditions will quiet down. But until, we will certainly have rain, we will certainly have thunderstorms. We're going to watch for the potential of additional severe thunderstorms at the present time. And I'm talking right now because we could have new warnings at any moment, but at least right now, none of us are any type of severe thunderstorm warning.
We'll appreciate that lull for now, Tim, and we'll keep a very close eye on what still may be coming. And we want to invite you to join our First Coast Weather Watchers Facebook group. That's where you could share pictures with us, maybe video of the weather around you, of course, only when it's safe. And you can also interact with our storm experts and stay up to date about weather even happening in your neighborhood. And we want to thank you. We've been talking here for a while, but thank you very much for joining us for First Coast News at 5:30. I'm Jeannie Blaylock.
And I'm Heather Crawford. We want to get right over to Anthony Austin, who has a look at our headlines tonight. Anthony?
Now, some of the stories we're following on this Monday, protests continue in Duval County schools. With schools closed for President's Day, students use the day off to continue their demonstrations, as you see here. Last week, several groups protested the school's You Matter mental health campaign, saying it overshadowed Black History Month. Duval County Schools has not responded to today's protest. A woman accused of killing a man is in the Putnam County Jail tonight. You see her right here. This is Dranisha Bellamy. She's charged with second-degree murder. According to the Palaca Police Department, officers found Samuel Mace shot in the 300 block of North 11th Street. He was taken to the hospital where he died. And tonight we're working to find out when Bellamy will be in court. Parents with children in Brantley County